There's a small hill country town where nearly 1 in 3 residents is over 65, where the median home now costs more than most people's houses back home, and where the weekend crowds get so thick that locals plan their grocery runs around when the tour buses leave. It's one of the most recommended retirement towns in the entire state of Texas, the kind of place that shows up on nearly every best places to retire list you'll find. And it's also the town at the very top of this list, the one so many retirees dream about, and the one where the dream gets complicated fastest. Stick with me because by the end you'll know exactly why. And you'll know it with real numbers, not just a feeling. This is 12 Texas towns retirees regret moving to. And don't make this mistake before you do the same thing. Before we get into it, here's the deal I want to make with you. Every town on this list is a real place. Every price range, every population figure, every landmark I mention has been checked against public records, census data, and reporting from the towns themselves. I'm not here to trash Texas or scare you off retiring here. Plenty of people move to these exact towns and love every minute of it, and I'd never pretend otherwise. But every single one of these places has a catch. Something the glossy retirement brochures and the real estate listings tend to leave out, and I'm going to name it honestly, town by town, no matter how charming the place is. That's the whole point of this channel. Real places, real trade-offs, no manufactured drama, and no sugarcoating either. And if that sounds useful to you, go ahead and hit subscribe now, because we cover a new corner of the country like this every week, always with the same standard of digging past the postcard. While you're at it, drop a comment telling me what state or town you're watching from. I like knowing who's actually out there thinking about a move like this, whether you're planning it for next year or just daydreaming on a Tuesday night. All right, let's get into the list. Number 12 is Port Aransas out on Mustang Island on the Texas Gulf Coast. It's known as the fishing capital of Texas, and it earns that title. Daily charters head out for deep sea bay and jetty fishing, and the marinas function as the town's real social hubs, the place where retirees actually get to know their neighbors. Beyond the water, the town hosts events like the Texas Sand Fest, and the Port Aransas Museum walks you through the island's early fishing and shipping history if you want a quieter afternoon. Home prices here run well above what you'd expect for a small coastal town, pushed up hard by vacation rental demand. So don't expect a bargain just because it's a modest-sized island community. The draw is obvious the moment you see it. Dunes, surf, and a working shrimping fleet that gives the place real texture instead of manufactured beach town charm. But retire here, and you'll run into 2 problems fast. First, the only way on or off the island for most people is a ferry or a long causeway drive. And in peak tourist season, that commute can eat your whole afternoon just running an errand. Second, senior healthcare options on the island itself are limited. You'll likely be driving into Corpus Christi or nearby Rockport for anything beyond routine care, which matters a lot more once you're relying on regular checkups. It's a gorgeous place to visit. Living there year-round as your only option for a doctor's visit is a different story entirely. Next up, we head inland to the hills where the pace slows down but the isolation gets more real. Number 11 is Bandera, the self-proclaimed cowboy capital of the world, tucked into the hill country west of San Antonio. If you want honky-tonks, workin' dude ranches, and rodeo on a Saturday night, this is about as authentic as it gets in Texas. No manufactured Old West theme park, just a town that never stopped being what it always was. Home prices stay modest here compared to its flashier hill country neighbors, which is a real point in its favor if budget is your top concern. But Bandera is small and genuinely rural, and that rural character is exactly what limits it. specialist medical care, a real hospital, even a wide selection of groceries. All of that means a drive into San Antonio, and that drive isn't short, especially if it becomes a routine part of your week rather than an occasional trip. For retirees who want the frontier fantasy full-time, it delivers completely. For retirees who need care nearby as they age, the distance can quietly become the whole story of their retirement. Number 10 is Lakeway, sitting on the shores of Lake Travis just west of Austin. This is a planned, polished community with golf courses, marinas, and a lakeview lifestyle that looks like a retirement magazine cover come to life. The kind of place where every street seems landscaped on purpose. The catch is right there in the geography. Lakeway sits close enough to Austin that it has absorbed a good chunk of Austin's cost of living without absorbing Austin's job market, its transit options, or its broader affordability. Traffic on the main roads in and out, especially Ranch Road 620, has become a genuine daily frustration as the whole Austin metro has grown around it year after year. You're paying for proximity to a booming city, and you're getting the traffic that comes with a booming city without necessarily living inside the city itself or enjoying everything that comes with it. Number 9 is Marble Falls, home to the pink granite quarries that literally built the Texas state capitol. The same stone still gets pulled from the ground here today. It's a lake town on Lake Marble Falls, with the Blue Bonnet Cafe serving pie since 1929, still using its original menu board, and a walkway of lights every winter along the lakefront that pulls in visitors from 6 counties. Trails connect Johnson Park to Westside Park and Falls Creek Park, forming a continuous greenbelt that walkers and cyclists use daily. So the outdoor lifestyle here is very real, not just marketing. But Marble Falls sits in the same hill country heat bowl as its neighbors, and summer here is long, dry, and intense, the kind of heat that changes how you plan your entire day once you're retired and no longer confined to an air-conditioned office 9 hours a day. Add in the seasonal tourist traffic that floods the town every weekend from spring through fall, and the quiet lake town fantasy needs an asterisk next to it. Number 8 is Born, founded in 1852 by German freethinkers fleeing political unrest in Europe, a contrarian independent streak that still shows up in the town's character today. Set along Cibolo Creek, with limestone buildings and bridges that have been carefully preserved, it's one of the prettiest small downtowns in the hill country, with a visual continuity you rarely find in towns that have grown this fast. The problem is that Bourne sits directly along the Interstate 10 corridor between San Antonio and the hill country, which has made it one of the fastest growing towns in the region over the last decade. That growth has pushed home prices up steadily, year over year, and traffic through town, especially during the drive time crunch on I-10, has gotten noticeably heavier than it was even a few years ago. The small town feel that drew people here in the first place is the exact thing that's eroding as more people discover it. Speaking of growth eating a small town alive, our next stop takes that to another level entirely. Number 7 is New Braunfels, a German settler town, where the Como River runs right through the middle of everything, and Green Hall, the oldest continually operating dance hall in Texas, still packs a crowd most nights of the week. Landa Park gives residents 51 riverside acres with an outdoor pool and shaded picnic areas. And the Gruene Historic District is full of antique shops if you want a slower Saturday. Housing here has stayed relatively reasonable by Texas Hill Country standards, with median listings well under $500,000. But New Braunfels has been one of the fastest growing cities in the entire country for years running. And that kind of growth changes a town's character in a hurry, no matter how much charm it started with. Tubing season on the Comal turns the River District into a packed, loud college crowd scene for much of the summer. Festive, if that's your thing. Exhausting if you moved here specifically for peace and quiet. Add in the traffic that comes with rapid population growth squeezed between San Antonio and Austin, and the sleepy German river town of the old postcards is mostly a memory during peak season now. Number 6 is Granbury, about an hour outside the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, centered on a limestone courthouse square that's recognized as the first of its kind in Texas. The 1891 Hood County Courthouse still chimes the hours. The Granbury Opera House stages live theater in a restored 1886 building with original balcony seating. And Lake Granbury gives retirees real water access for fishing, kayaking, and boating, with a paved trail system linking neighborhoods straight to downtown. Home prices here remain genuinely reasonable, generally in the mid-$300,000 range, which puts it well within reach for a lot of retirees on a fixed income. The catch is proximity to a metroplex that keeps sprawling outward every single year. As Fort Worth's suburbs push further west, Granbury has absorbed more traffic on its main highways and more new development pressing in on what used to be a standalone small town with its own clear identity. It's still charming today, genuinely so. The trajectory is the thing to watch closely if you're thinking long-term. Now here's something worth pausing on because it's not a hidden fee or a traffic jam. It's a matter of real safety, and it deserves honesty, not hype. Number 5 is Rockport, on Aransas Bay along the Texas coast, home to a certified Blue Wave beach, a wintering ground for whooping cranes, and the beautifully restored Fulton Mansion, built in the 1870s with indoor plumbing and central heating before most of Texas had either one. The bay setting shields it from open Gulf surf, which makes the water calmer and more walkable than most coastal towns. And it's a genuinely serious spot for coastal birding, if that's part of your retirement picture. But in August of 2017, Hurricane Harvey made landfall almost directly on top of Rockport as a powerful Category 4 storm, causing severe, widespread damage to the town. Rockport has rebuilt significantly since, and it remains a beloved retirement spot for people who love coastal life and boat culture. But that history is a fair and necessary reminder that Gulf Coast retirement comes with real hurricane exposure, and homeowners insurance in coastal Texas counties reflects that risk with premiums that have climbed steadily in recent years, sometimes catching new residents off guard when the first renewal notice arrives. Number 4 is Bastrop, known for the Lost Pines, a rare stretch of loblolly pine forest that doesn't belong anywhere near this part of Texas geologically and exists as its own little ecological island. It's a beautiful, unusual landscape, and it's part of what makes Bastrop feel different from anywhere else in the hill country. More like East Texas than Central Texas. In September of 2011, the Bastrop County Complex fire became the most destructive wildfire in Texas history at that time, burning roughly 34,000 acres and destroying around 1,600 homes in a matter of days. The forest has regrown substantially since then, and the town has invested heavily in fire mitigation, brush clearing, and public awareness. But that same combination of drought-prone climate and dense tree cover that makes Bastrop beautiful is also what makes wildfire risk something retirees here need to take seriously. Not as a one-time historical footnote from over a decade ago, but as an ongoing part of living in that particular landscape. We're a little past the halfway mark, and if the pattern is starting to feel familiar to you, beautiful town, real catch every single time, no exceptions. That's not an accident. That's the whole reason this channel exists. Nobody selling you a house or running a tourism campaign is going to walk you through the downside first. We do. Because we'd rather you know before you sign anything than after you've already moved the furniture in. If you want more of this kind of honest look at towns the ads and the listings tend to gloss over, subscribing genuinely helps this reach the people who are actually weighing a move like this right now. It costs you nothing, and it means a real amount to a small channel like this one. Now, back to the list. Number 3 is Georgetown, just 28 miles north of Austin, and officially recognized as the red poppy capital of Texas. With a Victorian-era town square, regularly called the most beautiful in the state, full of restored storefronts and a historic palace theater still hosting shows. Georgetown is also home to Sun City, Texas, one of the largest active adult retirement communities in the entire country, with its own golf courses, fitness centers, and a genuinely packed social calendar built specifically around retirees and their schedules. That's a huge part of its appeal, and it's not exaggerated. The community really does deliver an instant social life for people moving in alone. The catch is growth, and it's a big one. Georgetown has been one of the fastest growing cities in the entire United States for several years running, largely because Austin's expansion has pushed straight into it with no signs of slowing down. Housing costs have climbed noticeably as a result. Traffic on the main corridors into Austin has gotten heavier, and many retirees moving into age-restricted communities like Sun City also take on additional HOA and community fees on top of their mortgage and property taxes, which can catch new arrivals off guard if they didn't budget for it before making the move. Number 2 brings us back to the Hill Country and to Kerrville, sitting on a bend of the Guadalupe River with limestone banks and cypress trees, home to the longest-running folk music festival in North America, and an elevation high enough to soften the worst of the Texas summer heat compared to towns just a short drive away. The Kerrville River Trail runs for miles along the water, connecting Louise Hayes Park to the rest of downtown. The Museum of Western Art draws serious collectors, and Kerrville has long topped lists of the best places to retire in Texas, with a strong regional medical center, a low crime rate, and home prices that remain reasonable, generally in the mid-$300,000 range. I want to be careful and honest here because this catch isn't a matter of inconvenience. It's a matter of life and safety, and it deserves to be treated that way. In July of 2025, catastrophic flooding along the Guadalupe River in and around Kerrville caused significant loss of life, a tragedy that shook the entire Hill Country and drew national attention to the region's flood risk. The Texas Hill Country sits in what geologists and emergency planners have long called Flash Flood Alley, where narrow river valleys and sudden heavy rain can turn a calm river into a wall of water with very little warning, sometimes only minutes. Kerrville remains a genuinely wonderful town with a strong, resilient community that has shown real determination since. But anyone considering it, or any hill country river town like it, owes it to themselves to understand that flood risk honestly. Ask real questions about evacuation planning and warning systems, and take it seriously rather than treating it as something that only happens to other people somewhere else. Which brings us to number 1, Fredericksburg. If you've spent any time researching Texas retirement towns, you already know the name. Founded in 1846 by German immigrants, Fredericksburg has 19th century limestone architecture lining Main Street, working wineries scattered across the surrounding hills, and the National Museum of the Pacific War, an unusually large and serious museum for a town this size, built around Admiral Nimitz's boyhood hotel and home to a captured Japanese mini-submarine from Pearl Harbor. 20 minutes outside town sits Enchanted Rock, a massive pink granite dome you can hike with views that stretch for miles on a clear day. And Cross Mountain offers a shorter climb with panoramic vistas closer to downtown. It is, by almost any measure, one of the most beautiful small towns in Texas, and it consistently ranks among the very best places to retire in the entire state, appearing on nearly every serious list of hill country retirement destinations. Here's the number that should catch your attention. Census data puts Fredericksburg's population at just under 12,000 people, and 32% of them are 65 or older. Nearly a third of this entire town is retirees. That tells you everything about how beloved this place is as a retirement destination, and it's not a fluke or a marketing claim. It's simply who lives there. And that same popularity is exactly what's driving its biggest catch. Median home values in Fredericksburg now run from roughly $460,000, according to census figures, up to well over $530,000 by some real estate listing estimates, a price tag far above what you'd expect for a town this size, driven almost entirely by demand from people just like the ones watching this video right now. On top of that, Fredericksburg's Main Street draws enormous tourist crowds, especially on weekends and during peak wildflower season in the spring, turning a short errand into a slow crawl through traffic and full parking lots most Saturdays. And for anything beyond routine care, you're looking at a drive of an hour to an hour and a half into San Antonio or Austin, since specialist health care in town itself is limited to more general services. Fredericksburg earns its reputation, every bit of it. It's also proof that the most recommended town on every list is often the one that's gotten too popular for its own affordability. And that's worth sitting with before you fall for it the way so many others already have. So here's the honest takeaway from all 12 of these towns. None of them are bad places. Every single one has real beauty, real community, and real reasons people fall in love with them. Sometimes at first sight. But none of them stayed affordable, quiet, or simple by accident. And the ones that still feel that way today usually won't for long once enough people discover them the way you're discovering them right now. Flood zones don't move because a town is charming. Hurricane paths don't reroute around a nice historic district just because the sunsets are pretty. And popularity has a price tag, literally, in the form of every dollar added to a median home value by demand instead of construction cost. The people who retire happily in towns like these are usually the ones who went in with their eyes open about the trade-off. Who asked the hard questions before signing anything? Not the ones who only ever saw the postcard version. If you've made it this far, I'd genuinely like to know, which of these 12 would you actually consider moving to? Catch and all, and which one would you rule out immediately? And if you live in one of these towns yourself, tell us what we missed, because nobody knows the real trade-offs better than the people already living them day to day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.